Good morning. This is Norma Cowie for this week's Norma Talks. I thought I'd do something a little different than I usually do, and that is talk about some of the tools that I use over the time or teaching tools that I have. There was one I was really looking forward to finding, and I can't seem to find it. So it's either been given to somebody, which could happen, or I have put it away somewhere where I can't find it. Anyway, most of you know that I use tarot cards. Luckily, the star, yeah, total balance, total working in the sense of direction. One of the things I was my first introduction to learning how basically to develop my psychic abilities, but mostly importantly was the philosophy that is contained within them, which I have gone on, written books about, teach quite happily, and of course use them in the readings for the month. And I just did a whole series on the numbers. Numbers are really, really important, I find, and especially for your birth path, the current year, and even in your name. There's certain things that when they come together will determine a certain element of what would you say, of behavior, of a way of looking at the life and the way of reacting. All of these are little what we would call tools. So today is about tools. So as I've said, tarot is my main tool. I still use it personally, but for my clients, read for years and many different kinds. Just a little while ago, we had another mini readings for Saturday. So there's lots of ways you can read, and there are many, many, many different kinds of readers out there. I always called myself a psychological reader, a person who looked at the patterns as to the vibration that you are on and what you needed to do to change the vibration that you're on. All of these things I find very, very important in relation to where you're going, what you're doing, and how you want it to be. But there are many other things. For instance, I've got here my small traveling crystal ball. Now I'll put it on this little stand. The big one is a little heavy right now to sort of put the big one. I have a big one. This is my travel one. It has traveled in many places with me. I used to take it when I used to do psychic parties, and people could have a choice of an aura drawing or a crystal ball reading. The thing is, I do see things in the crystal ball. I recently did a mini reading where my big ball was kind of saying, hey, you haven't used me for a while. It's time to use me. So I used my big one, which is very heavy. I had to move it, moving it and things like that. And took a look. And you know what amazed me, because I really haven't utilized it that way. I always read it as a crystal ball. But reading it in conjunction with the tarot was really interesting. It showed me one picture, for each person. It was like a picture right away. It was there. The picture, and the picture described when we got into the mini reading with the cards. It was like it really helped. It really helped add. It really helped show a lot more clarity and awareness and direction. And so I was really, really happy. But this little one works just as well. And I have proven that many, many times. Poor thing, it's a little chipped in places now because it is a travel ball. I'm just looking at all the little chips on it, but it still works. When I look inside it, I can see pictures if I ask. Now, I'm going to explain in a minute how come that you can, I'll do that now because I was going to show you my dark mirror that I couldn't find. That I got in England, actually, and I'll tell you a story about the dark mirror. Centuries ago, there were people that did readings, and with different, but they didn't have things like maybe a crystal ball, a clear one, and things like that. So what happened was they used to use muddy puddles, anything that was still. So they would look in a muddy puddle to get the reflection of what they wanted to see. Now they created these dark mirrors that are very similar, and I've used them, and they work exactly the same as a crystal ball. Now if I have read in novels where in ancient Egypt times they used to use water in a bowl, get the water very still, and use the water as a reflective surface. And in some of the books I read, where they used to use it to guard the to what would you call it? Just to see the land where say the country ended. They watch the borders. They would use what they called looking glass women or readers or whatever they could be either, and so they would watch and see the borders. And yeah, it's interesting. So many things that were used and that have been lost in time. But I found it very interesting when I was in England is when I ran across the dark mirrors. And I was very fascinated with them. Came home and I found, yes, it worked exactly the same. But people weren't used to seeing a reader look in a dark mirror. It was just something I had that I enjoyed, that I had collected. And so it was a pleasure, you might say, to have it. And I was really disappointed this morning when I looked for it where I thought it was, and it wasn't there. But I have a vague memory of giving it to somebody. And of course, I don't know who I gave it to. That's happened many times. But I did have one, and they are available, I know, especially in England and Glastonbury, where I got it. So they are available, and I'm sure they're available if people are interested to buy them on the net somewhere. Somewhere they'll be there. Another tool that I use a lot of, especially when I'm doing my transformation work and I want to find what is what, but I used to use them a lot in ghost busting. And those of you that may be interested in that, I have a book called The Ghost I Took Home, and it talks all about how to do ghost busting and what you can use and tools that you can use. Now, I have here three, and that's a pendulum. I have three. Actually, I didn't finish the same. Sorry about that. This is my favorite that I use at the moment. It's very heavy. It's got a nice solid point. And I have a sheet, which I don't have available here, where I take a look at all the things I think that may be blocked or maybe, and what you won't know is that many places I'll put other, and very often it'll show me other. And I ask, do I know what this other is? And often they'll say, no, you don't know. And that's always been part of how I've learned, because I've got into these things I don't know. Okay, what is it? And then I have to psychically be showing or whatever until I get it. But these are basically yes, no. I use them in my ghost busting as well, looking at energy patterns to see where the energy is and the vortex. You may hang on, get my fingers down here for a minute. You may have heard about ley lines that are in the earth, and wherever a ley lines cross, maybe best to go that way. There is an energy point. It can be a positive or a negative point, and some houses have them, and they attract ghosts. Number one, if they're big enough, and I found some really, really big ones in my life where it was almost like a feeding, because that's where they often, if they haven't really transcended to the higher realms, they will go and feed off the energy that these cross points make. And so I have to tell you a story because it's coming to my mind. There's in Vancouver, there's a very big cross where there's a lot of traffic and a lot of things, and a lot of accidents happen in this corner. And I'm not going to say which corner. I'm just going to say this, that I was just there one time and I said, wow, look at the energy that's around this corner. And I was doing some clearing work in an apartment that was very close on that corner. And I just couldn't believe the energy. And I wouldn't want to live down here. And then a little while later, I read where there was a big explosion in that corner, and I wasn't surprised at all. It was like, whoa, okay. So anyway, that corner, because I don't live in Vancouver now, I don't know that really what if that corner still has a lot of accidents or not. But man, they had a huge big vortex in the middle of the crossroads of these two major streets. Anyway, that was another thing. So okay, this is my favorite pendulum at this point in time. I really like it. But I also have another one. I have another two actually, and I found it incidentally, they're kind of both blue. You'll notice they're on long strings. Some people use long strings. I don't. I like them to be fairly close to me. This is a sort of a blue glass one that I use. And so when I think yes for me, it'll go back and forward. If I think no, it will go around. And that's exactly what I've just done. Yes, and it'll go this way. No, and it'll go that way. Some people are opposite. You have to learn or to figure out on your own. This one is kind of more fancy. It's got fancy little beads and things, and it's a little, hang on, let me get that there, a little bit more dense, but the same thing. Yes, back and forth. No, circle. And you'll notice for me how quickly it responds. Now that takes practice. That takes an awareness, that takes a sense of recognizing that there is an affinity, that you can pick something up like that and you're going to have an affinity with it right away. Some people, they'll get a pendulum and they can't make it work. A lot of it, you got to get your head out of the way, have no expectation. You're just going to allow it to do it, but you set up an affinity. So when you pick it up, you come immediately in accord and it will answer whatever you want. Do I sometimes forget to use it for my own self in the moment, but I have for sure used it. And that makes an incredible difference. Again, these are about tools that you have or use or people use to be able to see more, get more information. I'm going to put this back where it belongs so I don't forget it, because I use it a lot. The other two sit over closer to where I sit normally to watch TV and to read books, etc. Knit, one of my hobbies, and yeah, I travel. If I go traveling, well, usually I'm traveling. I've always got my real working things with me just in case. I'm just saying. I'm just ticking off what I've got here now. Okay, healing. I've done a lot of different healing modalities in my life. And one thing I don't know you're all aware of, that in your palms here, you have what we call chakras. Now, the chakras are your healing points. And a lot of people use their hands, and that's because they activate the chakras. Some people have the energy actually come through the end of their fingers. For me, no, it's more my palm right here. And and when I go to do a healing or go to do anything with healing, I always rub my hands and get those activated. Otherwise, they're not activated. They're just there. Now, you have chakra points in every joint. You have chakra points on you. Everyone talks about the main chakras in your body. I deal with an expanded chakra system. Of course, I didn't just take there were 7. I went and found a whole pile more. But every joint has one. I do have a video out where I talk about the expanded chakra system. And remember, I have invisible teachers. So it's like when I say invisible, they're not of this, they're of higher realms that have taught me over the years. And they showed me this whole new, what I call the grid. Some people call it the matrix, that of an expanded chakra system that works a little bit differently than what has been what would you say, accepted norm, but I found that they've worked incredibly well and often have aided and helped other people who have wanted now to get better and they couldn't figure out why. The chakras are very, very important for bringing the energy through, and so they consequently need to be clear and they need to be in relationship to the whole thing. It's one of the things on my transformation work that I look at first of all, is with my little trusty pendulum to find out what's working and what isn't. We also have chakras way above our head, way below our feet, etc. And they extend out. I was almost like we're in a little bubble. And perhaps in the near future, I will do another one because it was a long time ago I spoke about the chakras, and it might be time to do that again. But today we're talking about tools. Now I wanted to show you, see with this one. See this little, this is called a wand. It's got a crystal in here and a pin, it's got a pentagram at the end. Now it's a little tarnished right now, actually, because it's not like I use this. This is my first wand that I ever got. I was attending a psychic fair in Seattle, and this caught my eye, and I didn't really know what it was or what I was doing with it. And what surprised me when I actually got it, it had a very distinct N on it. And with my name being Norma, it was like, oh, I guess this is meant for me. I didn't really notice it right away. I just knew that there was something about it that attracted me. And so I was kind of at times in the collecting mode. But anyway, this was my first original wand. I didn't really work with it as a wand, but I always like to have it around. And it also travels with me for a long time on my table, decorating my table. Most of these are used for healing. As time went on, I also began to collect some crystals. And this is a crystal wand. It's an amethyst one. And a healing friend of mine used to love using it. And he was big and because this is very heavy, actually. And again, I use it more as an ornament on my crystal shelf than anything else. And but it came like this. And if you get a closer look at the end, this is all amethyst in here, and this is where you can grab it. And what my friend used it for a lot was what he usually used a sort of a turning motion with it, and it would help. It's got a point, and you'll find that most often when you've got healing ones, like in this one, because I can easily hold this one, is that it has a point and you can sort of zero in. And talking about zeroing in when it comes to healing, I bought this, what they call the 3-point energy wand many years ago, and it's helped a great deal. And a friend of mine actually ended up two because she had really bad hips, and she uses these one on each side in the mornings for her hips. But it works too, again, by moving it around. And what I found, how I was taught to do it, was you turn it 3 times and then you kind of shoot the energy into wherever you want it. And I kind of misplaced it for a while, but then it resurfaced, thank goodness. So I have it sitting on my desk for my aches and pains. And but it is definitely a 3-point energy as being something that really aids, and it sits in its little leather pouch. So it's made it sort of inert in a way, but it's, again, healing. Now, going back to the ghost busting thing, I want to first of all, I'm going to do something here. I have a nice big thing, but a friend is using it right now, made to be for sound. So I'm not sure how this will pick it up, but it picks up my voice and it probably doesn't pick up the sound. Sound is incredibly important for vibrational purposes and the beginnings. This is just a small little bowl. You can make it sing even. I wonder if I can get it going. But anyway, get the idea. It's tiny. My bigger one, as I said, I have a friend has that and is using that for helping her. Another thing that I use sometimes, and when I was getting classes regularly, was this one. It's got 3, I've got a single one and I've got this triple one. So and if you can hear through here, you may not hear this. I'm not sure. I haven't practiced this on this with how much it picks up, but it will move it through. But my favorite there's 2 favorites I have, but my favorite for ghost busting was this one. It's a bell. And very often in when people have homes that are a little bit distorted, things are distorted, noise I found at a right pitch could shift the energy out where nothing else. And this was my favorite. Now, why do I like this one? Because it's a little higher pitch than a lot of bells that you find. If you go and you listen to bells, and plus it's brass, so it travels well. That's important. A lot of them are, nice and pretty little bells with little tinkles, but this one's traveled many miles with me and cleared a lot of homes over the years. But then I found the master of all masters. I was reading, it's only a couple of years ago. I don't do that, go out and read anymore, so like that. But I was in this hall and I heard this noise. And I went like, it's like, where did that come from? I love these. And it's like, the Spanish things that they click together, but these were explained to me as being industrial ones. And I'll see if hopefully these sounds are coming. Now, this may be hard on your ears, but it clears energy like you would not believe. And that was really interesting. When I ran across the hole where I was to find, like, where's that noise coming from? And I found the stole that this man was selling. So I said, I want that. And so he went to give me another one, which I hadn't heard. I said, no, I want the one you just used, which was this one. And I have found that it has made an incredible difference to my environment, etc. Sometimes I kind of put it away and don't really use it. But if I'm feeling that energy needs to shift, that's what I will use now. But it's been my latest noise, what I call noisemaker. It's been my latest one I picked up. The rest have kind of been, I still think that my bell, if you're dealing with a house, that's the right pitch to get. The idea is you want a pitch that clears the energy. And that anything, if you've got a ghost, if you've got energy stalled, ghosts where you really kind of deal, I feel one-on-one, but it does help to know the energy. And even sometimes I've told people, because they have a tendency to build up energy sometimes, is to use your hands even by clapping in the space. That can even break down an energy field. They can break that down. Just clapping your hands into your closets, into the corners of your home, if it's something doesn't feel right, because not everybody has the right pitch or sound, and that's one of the things that I looked for. You can also, of course, when you burn candles with scent or whatever, can make a difference too. So there's lots of little different tools that we had. I still am upset that I couldn't find my black mirror, but I really think that I've given it to somebody to use. I really think I've done that. So, but they're there. They're out there. I only saw them in England. Oh, excuse me. But anyway, I'm just going to have a drink of water here. I just hope this week, I want you to think about, even though we have the ability to heal with our hands, even though we have ability to use our voices, even though we have the ability to do, it's like when you're going to dig a ditch, you go get a shovel. There are tools that you can use. And in my work, I use tools. There's no doubt about it. I use tarot cards a lot. I use my pendulum a lot at this point. But there's also other things like my crystal balls. When I was doing ghost busting, I used to, pack my little things in to go out and see what there was. I used a pendulum for that to determine where the blocks are. And remember those ley lines coming together, because they create a vortex. And so you want to break that down often, because it can create havoc in the household, especially if you have sensitive children or an animal. Animals in particular usually lie on them, especially cats. Cats like that, because often the ley lines, they run in a sort of what they call a negative polarity. They'll lie on it because they like the negative energy. Anyway, that's what I have for today. So I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you and for subscribing. That's really important. I thank you for your comments. I also thank you for watching all the other two shows, Sunday Thought and Mental Mind Treatments on Monday night. Life is great. And there's so many things we can do, but sometimes we have things that come up that we have to address and deal with one way or another. And then it's when that kind of thing is past and everything is back to normal, we feel really good and wonderful. And I trust each one of you is feeling great, wonderful, because summer's coming, sun's shining, and it's well. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.